I'm a fisherman, and this is the way it works, right? I love fishing. This is what I do, like for fun, right? I like to go in the ocean, off in the ocean, and then just fish. And fishing is people think, oh, you're there to like spend time in nature and pulling fish and get food for your family, and there's that beauty of it, right? That very natural part of it. But I think most good fishermen understand that it's just a testing thing. You go and test things. You miss 1 week and you're like, shit, I failed. I didn't catch any fish. What could have happened? Okay, think. Okay, white lure. That's the move. We got to go with the white lure. I thought we went the blue lure. Now I got to try the white lure. Let's go try that. That ain't work. Live bait. That's the move. I saw that other guy. He had live bait. I'm going to come back. You go and get the live bait. You come back. You do it again. You do it over and over until you finally find the fish, right? And then you're like, oh shit, I need a better fishing pole because I'm pulling bigger fish in, right? And then it's like that's the move, right?
And that's the sales problem now, not a GTM anymore, right? The bigger stick, right? Cool. So, how do you want to be introduced?
Noe. Man, I didn't think about that one. Just put Noe, founder of Growth. Just GrowthOps.AI. You could, been part of been in SaaS and B2B sales for the last 16 years. Been part of 5 different successful startups, and now currently leveraging AI to bring some of that old school success into the modern AI age, I guess.
Cool.
Something like that. I mean, it doesn't, whatever you want to do, just, been in B2B sales for 16 years, helped a few different organizations with their GTM strategy. Some were successful, some not so successful, but, and
by the way, I am totally skipping the intro right now because I think this is a nice way to do it anyways, because there is so many things around you that the reason why I asked you is like, so do you consider yourself now entrepreneur, or you want to be like, presented as someone who is doing sales consultations, because you do that as well, and there's a huge part of AI is now behind like your profile as well. So I'm totally not doing the intro, man. This was perfect. So just keep it up, keep going.
all right. Cool, man. You got me. Yeah. Listen, how do you want to be introduced? Because I got your list of questions and that wasn't one of them. So I was like, shit, I didn't think about that. Do I want to be introduced? That's a great question. That's cool, man. Thanks for that. Now we got the incognito kind of version of it, so that's cool.
Cool. So one of the things that I wanted to chat with you, obviously, so to clear out the way for people who are listening/watching us, we know each other from MaxCDN days, obviously, so 2012, something like that. At that time, I think you were, even then, you were director of enterprise sales, was it? Right? That's how we met? Cool.
It was a good time. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just like wanted to touch point on that and ask one fundamental question is like, there is something in your profile that really like was interesting to me, and that's how you took like your father's painting business, right? To kind of maybe let's call it polish your entrepreneurial mindset, and then go straight through like what was it, UCLA, and then it just led you to tech and to sales, right? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's that. Yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that in. I wasn't expecting to go that far back, which is really cool. But I love that, man. I'm glad that you know me so well. But yeah. I definitely cut my teeth with sales with my dad's business. Relationships. So I'm a first generation Mexican American, born here in Los Angeles. And raised in Los Angeles. And I was in a suburb east of Los Angeles, like proper, but in San Bernardino County, in somewhere called Ontario, California, and spent part of my time in Rancho. But my dad had his own business, and he what he did was he was a house painter, and and being Mexican, man, I don't know how it, different cultures, but like if your dad has a business, like you're just automatically part of the labor force. You know, you know, you're not, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, there's work to be done. Let's go, right? And so, so right away, I wasn't maybe, 6 years old when I was like, hey, let's go to work. And I mean, I didn't do much, right? I was like a gopher, right? Go for this, go for that, and bring it back to my dad. I was mainly there for the lunches, really. That's really what I was there for. Because then it's like, lunchtime, it's like you get to choose wherever you want. It's like Carl Jr.'s, McDonald's, it's like, yeah, dude, like let's see. It's like back in the 90s, so it's like completely okay to eat this stuff. And so,
What was the
and
pay
that's
like? What was the pay like?
food, food, man. It was food. It was like that's why I'm a big boy, man. That's why, yeah, that's what happened. So it was just like, hey, you go to work, and instead of being at home, it was like, you get to go and have lunch with your dad, which was amazing, right? I didn't get too much time to spend with my dad. He's still alive, but but growing up, he just would go to work every day, and so he worked, 6 days a week. So as soon as I can, even Saturdays, man, that's when I would really go to work. Yeah, so Saturdays, man, it was like given, like wake up, let's go to work, and that happened for years, man. And then when I was little, I would go every now and then. It was spend time with my dad, and then one time I I got suspended from school, and so I was out of school for 4 days, and my dad was like, "This guy," like, and trying to figure out what to do with me, and so he was like, "Hey, you're coming to work," and this one I was like, 12, 13 years old.
Either that or military, right?
Exactly. Out of the military, man. You're done. We're done with you. So yeah, so they're suspended me from school for just 4 days, right? I was gonna go back. I was, but he obviously had a need for help. And so, with my head down, I went to work, and that was like the transition of like me actually doing like helping him out. And I actually did work. I felt bad. And that was the first time I actually did labor for him. And the first time I actually got money. So that's your answer. And so for like 4 days of work, I think I got $80, which is it was a lot of money, like for me. It was like, whoa, this is like awesome. And so I had $80 and I was like, what do I do with $80? Right. And I was like, 12, 13 years old, like a water gun, the best water gun money can buy. That's what this will do. It's like it's not the money, it's the outcome, right? It's like what you're looking to achieve. It's like it means to an end. So I obviously really wanted this water gun. So I go and look for the best like super soaker. It was like the super soaker 3000 or something. It's like huge, monstrous, like super soaker. And so it was like $40 or something like that, $39 or and so I have $80 and I'm like, what do I do with this like extra $4? You know what? I'm gonna buy a second. So I bought two the Best Buy. And I gave one to my brother. And I was like, it's not fun if the homie can't have none, right? So my brother was my homie then, and I was like, dude, I gotta hook him up. He was 4 years younger. I was like, here you go, bud. So with the first money I ever made, man, my $80 that I made working with my dad, that was it. That was it, man. And that was my addiction. I was like, all right,
That was the
money,
hook,
money.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So money, where's that? From there, I kept helping him. I've always been a little bit lazy, to be honest. And so physical labor hasn't been my forte. And so as soon as, working with him, going to the job sites, as soon as, I saw a client, I've always been very, very like, communicative and love to talk to people and get to know people. That's my favorite thing. I love to get to know people and really understand them and like, see their perspective, right? Because we all have beautiful perspectives and different perspectives and we all have needs and wants and so, I became a fan of that, of getting to know people and how we showed up for them. And so as soon as I saw people, like, I would stop what I was doing. I would stop painting the door, start painting the window or sanding or whatever I was doing. And I was like, oh, person, let me talk to you. And so, working with him, one time we ended up working with a client who was, and I grew up poor, man. So in the Inland Empire. So, we went to this house and we're working there, and I was talking to the people. First of all, I was just like, "Wow, this house is amazing! It's probably the coolest house I've ever been to till that point." And it was like the house and the backyard was uh, they had boats parked, right? And so like it was water, it was like the ocean, right? And I was like, wait, what? Like your backyard's like the ocean. And that blew my mind. And my first question is like, what do you do for a living? Like, how do I get
Yeah.
this, right? I got my water guns. Now how do I get this, right? And so and so he was like, yeah, I'm an attorney. I went to USC. And I was like, all right, there you go. So now I got to go to school. And so that led me to just, going through working with my dad and, going to community college. And then, once started talking to clients, I stuck to that. I no longer really I saw the value that I brought to my dad. I could help him paint or I could help him talk to clients. Right. And that's where like, that was my, like, you're in sales, dude. It's like you're not, as much as I would love to help my dad with labor, I'm just not a labor guy, right? So I was like, okay, talk to the clients. And then from there, it's like, oh God, like Noe Jr. is amazing. Let's refer more clients. They're going through. He's going to junior college. They were to refer more clients. And then we started making partnerships, right, with real estate companies. And then they started referring his business, and so we started really doing really great. Um, went from little mom and pop's thing to really kind of did well for a long time. Now my dad's more retired, slowed down, but it definitely had its heyday during the time that I was there. My brother and I really built it up, and that was it. And so when I got to MaxCDN, I went to UCLA, by the way, so that led me to go to school. I got a degree in economics and met a lot of really good people, which connected me to my first startup. So and that's where we met, MaxCDN. So by the time I got to MaxCDN, um, I knew I liked sales. I love sales, and so I wanted to be in sales. Well, I like the money that came with sales. Let me refer that. And so I was good at it. And so got to Max, and it was easy. That's the reality. Now, for most people, you know, um, it would be hard because it was a hard sell. But coming from a house painter where I had to like mask and paint and carry heavy shit and be out in the cold and in the hot outside and dirty. And then I was like, all of a sudden I got to sit at a desk
Yeah.
and just sell. I was like, this is heaven.
So did
Like,
you enter, what was the position that you entered in Max?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, when I was employee number four, so everybody else was like, it was either like partners, and then I ended up like getting some money, which was really nice of Chris and everybody to hook it up with that because I was just an early on employee. I didn't ask for much. I just like jumped in. I was like, yeah, I'll do this. Like, cool, man. This is amazing. I didn't know tech. I didn't know SaaS. And had no intention of getting into it. Just was, showed up and I just saw the opportunity. Well, I saw the opportunity of the unknown, right? Like I don't know if at the time I was at the bank, and I was like, if I stick to the bank, I know where I'm going to lead to next. With MaxCDN, I had no clue, and so that intrigued me. I was like, that's cool. So I came in as a sales manager to MaxCDN, and yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was like all over the place. I was still closing, I was still selling. We're still trying to figure it out, right? It was just like a title, but the reality is we're just all trying to make it happen, man. I mean, when I started, we were doing 70 50 70,000 a month, and MRR. And like I think we celebrated that, right? I think that was like the month that like I wasn't part of the Garmin deal that we started
Hmm.
working with Garmin, but it's like that was it, right? Like it was right before myself, and that was like the push that got us to like 50 grand. But before that, it might have been like 20 or something that they were
Yeah.
billing. So, it was just like luck, really. I mean, that's really what it was, right? We had a good product market fit. There was a need for it, obviously, but how we did it, how we got that deal, like, it took us years to try to really figure that one out, which is, a tough one. Um, yeah. So with Max CDN, that was a lot of fun. It was my first time in a kind of professional
Yeah.
environment, right? And actually like, selling a product and trying to figure out, how things worked. It was a little frustrating. Like I think my control freak kind of like I let loose in it. I think it helped a lot. Because it kind of like I said, it almost felt random at first, right? Which is like these different deals, right? We're selling live stream, we're selling um, you know, HTTP, like just basic, static delivery. we're like trying to see if we can do dynamic, and it's like we're just figuring it out, man, as we were going. And so like, hey, go sell this, and it's like we go after this, and it's like, we found somebody who has a need, basically, right? That was it. Bring it to the tech team, and then, it's like, hey, can we do this? Like, yeah, I think we can. It's like, trying to figure that out. And then it felt very randomized, right? And finally, on the tech side, we kind of like figured out, okay, there's certain things we don't want to do, but more importantly, on the sell side, we started seeing what we could do. And that's I think what was really kind of what pushed us forward is that curiosity of like um, who and what's going on for them that leads us to do business together,
Okay.
right? And that's fundamentally like the question we still try to answer, right? Which is who and what's going on for them. Like why? Why now? How do we talk to them? Like what is it, right? Like what's the pain point you can say, right? Like
Yeah.
um often we think of ICP like, oh, we're gonna go after like a certain like demographic. It's like, yeah, but within that demographic, like what's going on for them, right? One of the first major wins at MaxCDN was when we saw how Cloudflare at the time, AWS was just like very new, was basically at a certain point, which was the pivoting point, very specific, was like at around 20 terabytes a month. So around the 20 terabyte a month mark for AWS, it becomes really expensive. So it just doesn't make economic sense. And so every time an AWS client came and they said they were doing like 25, 30 terabytes a month, you'd be like, yeah, like this is it, right? Um, and so, and that's, that was the first major win. So it's like, to figure that out, just to be like that specific. Now, today we know that, right? We see triggers, we can research and say, okay, like what technology are they using? Back then, we're just like, oh, I think they're like, static, websites. We should go after what static websites. That's it. Just do caching, right? Like basic caching. But the truth was, if you dug deeper into it was Cloudflare clients who had, enough traffic, that they were pivoting into a different place where it just didn't make economic sense. And then we were able to help them out very quickly, offer them a very comparable service, closer, tighter knit like relationship with us. And it just, worked. And it just, went from there. We just kept doing it over and over. Um, so yeah, no, I learned a lot there. That was one of the big lessons is, that curiosity, right? Of understanding, what and why and who and things like that. It's like, because that's annoying, right? It's like not knowing basically who's a good client, right? It's a tough one. It's a tough question to answer.
Which actually brings me to something I wanted to touch base with you on. So do you remember when the live stream was introduced? Because when I arrived, I think it was already there, and it was already a problematic thing.
Yeah, I think it was there from the get-go, man. There was a few different brands that we started off with.
HDDN was
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember that? Yeah, HCDN. We had MaxCDN and then NetDNA.
yeah,
And I think we had possibly one other like
Cloud Cache.
s- Cloud Cache. You
Yeah.
remember? That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, Cloud Cache. Um, which was like I think like Cloud Cache might have been like the even cheaper version, which was like kind of crazy to think, or something like that.
It's actually it's um so the NetDNA was enterprise brand and pricing was enterprise there. Then Cloud Cache was the same thing as MaxCDN, only a bit I think expensive, and MaxCDN was the cheapest. And
Okay.
HDDN was like VOD and streaming only, and then it all kind of all cross-connected and ended up eventually in the MaxCDN brand.
Yeah. From the sell side, I just remember that NetDNA had the contract, so it paid the best.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
that, so I'm like NetDNA, all NetDNA, until the day came where we merged, which was a smart move, like a smart strategy. It's like, you kind of see it now with GTM strategies of like bringing AI, like, dude, like go all out on a lot of different things, right? Now that we have the manpower to do that, like then it's like, okay, let's create like a few different brands to try different things out and see what works. And then they just started consolidating, right? Which is really a smart
Yeah.
move, right? Like to double down on what works. At the time it was frustrating as heck, right? Because you're like, what, like, who do we, what are we selling? Or, what's our, we didn't have an ICP really, other than if you had a website, right? Um, but yeah, it was yeah. So for me, it was like NetDNA, figuring that out. MaxCDN was kind of like the like lower level stuff, and then yeah, what is it? What was it
H
called?
HDDN.
HDN. Yeah. And when HDN, we had the live streaming, um, and then we also did some on demand. So that was a
Yeah,
big one too for us.
VOD was everywhere, I think.
Yeah,
Or maybe HDDN and MaxCDN only.
yeah,
But yeah, it was always there. Yeah.
yeah. No, it was always there, and we stopped doing it for a while. But then we had some clients who came in who we they were like no video for a while. So for a bit there, we went kind of hardcore and we said, hey, like no video. And this is maybe months, right? But like we're like no first we're like doing live streaming, video on demand VOD. It was just like everything.
Oh man,
And then
sorry,
we're
sorry, I have to interrupt you there. So I remember, actually, you are right. VOD, I mean, VOD existed and it was used.
like
But so the trick with it was, I think it wasn't like marketized. It wasn't advertised as a thing. It wasn't, circulating in the minds of the people in that sense. But it was heavily used actually because we had customers, and I remember I set up like a lot of them, who had like big files that needed to host somewhere on reliable hosting, but their hostings were typically garbage that they needed to get away from, and they didn't want to go to enterprise hosting. So what we did is we hosted their heavy files on the VOD and used VOD as origin.
yeah, yeah, I remember
Yeah, so
that, dude.
yeah, so it's at some point it became like the main purpose of like hosting big files as the origin.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You figured it out. It was pretty cool, man. It was pretty cool because like I said, for a bit there was like, hey, no video, and they were like, oh man, that's tough. But that was the era of like, when video ads started coming in, and things like that, and like short tail, long tail. We had like some long tail. We started kind of differentiating a little bit, like, hey, is this a video that served a lot, right? That was a differentiator, right? Like, so like, let's say you had like a small file, like a small amount of files and then you had a lot of requests, then it worked, right? Which was perfect for ad serving. Like, just like one or two, three, whatever files it was, and then just like, run it a million times, right? Versus like there was some, clients like, let's say Getty Images, right? Or something like that, where it's like huge library that's requested very, not very often. It just didn't work well with the type of setup that we had, with the caching servers. It would just take too much storage. And so we
Was
moved
Getty?
away from that.
I don't remember. Getty Images was a client.
It's funny. I was literally thinking about that recently. I don't have like necessarily a way to track it at this point to see who
Mm,
was a client, wasn't a client. But I don't know if we were in conversation with them or we ended up as a client. It recently came up again,
mm.
for a different matter. Just I ran into, I think it was like the founder or something. I was like, did we work with you or not work with you? So like, and so I didn't, I can't answer that question. So I don't know, if they were ended up.
No, no worries.
I don't know if they were just a prospect or we ended up working with them or they might have, been just around us. But it always reminds me of a bad example of somebody who was bad for us, right? Which, was ingrained in me as, from, just like, me and just like the way we talk to the team. It's just like, hey, like, don't do this. Like, this is not our ICP, right? It's like we just don't do that. So it's like, but it ended up being like the short tail video stuff um after not offering it and kind of pulling away so hard from it. It was interesting to see how it actually was a big part of our revenue and a big part of our growth for for some time. Because it was a good amount of bandwidth. It was there were sizable deals, and we did have a good solution for it. It was just very specific, right? So we have very then we started kind of almost like breaking down to very specific products. We had VOD, but it had to be pseudo streaming, not
Yeah,
like progressive, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
So it was just a lot of like types of streamings that we just avoided. And we had to qualify right from the sell side, like, hey, like, um, what type of streaming are they doing? What is it that they're looking to do? So we had to like qualify that. Um, yeah, which is fun too, right? To determine, because then it's a sales problem, right? Like they're bringing this to people, and we need to figure out, if they're the right fit, and
But that's a
and
better
and and
problem than having a GTM problem.
I think so. I think so. I think it's just more controllable, man.
Mm.
It's just like it's like a person problem, right? Like it's like, okay, are we saying the right things? Like what is that it like what why aren't things converting, right? Like if we're talking to the right people, if we're not talking to the right people, then it's a GTM issue, right? If all we're bringing is junk and we're talking to these people and just like and often people think that it's like, oh, I have a sales problem. Like I
Mm.
have this huge sales problem. I need to hire a new person. I'm a founder of this, I just hired this SDR, this new AE, and it's like, and they're just like, we're not talking to the right people. They don't understand. It's like, no, no, like that's a GTM problem, right? That's a go-to-market problem. Because you're not bringing in the right people. You don't have your sources. You don't have your channels. Like this, we built channels within MaxCDN. We knew where, ads were great for us, right? We knew
Yeah.
gaming was great for us. And so we built these channels, for outreach and through email. That was like the beginning of Outlook.io. And HubSpot, we did that type of research or that type of outreach, and drip campaigns. I think we even tried Marketo at one point, to try to bring those things in. And then what worked really well for us was the conferences, right? Like going in person, meeting people, and doing some outreach around those conferences and making sure we followed up with those people. And that was our channels. We're not like, okay, now we're going to go to gaming conference. Now we're going to go to, streaming conference, and where a bunch of ad people are going to go. Or ad serving. I went to ad tech many years, which was a lot of fun. Whole nother conversation, but a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah. I have kids now. I can't talk about this stuff. I have kids
There's
and a
that.
wife. Yeah, they know about it, but but yeah, that was a whole nother conversation. But yeah, man, it was it's that was we didn't have a sales problem. I think we had a pretty good pretty good sales team. I think given the tools that we had, I think we built some great channels for our GTM. I think we had a really solid GTM strategy. It took time to get there, that's the way it was then. It just things took time. It was SEO. You had to just work at it. Um, we didn't run any ads. We didn't have the money for it, to be honest. We were bootstrapped, and so and it was a little different then for business. Like today, it's much different with
Yeah, but
with
but I
ad.
yeah, sorry. So I remember that inbound channel was very strong at a time. So having that in mind and certain like let's say that we did like 80/20, possibly maybe a bit different correlation between Soho and enterprise. How did we onboard the other 20% of the enterprise customers? Was that outreach as well, or did inbound work for them successful as well
No,
as for Soho?
yeah, no, that's a great question, man. No, no, no. A lot of it was partnerships. So like, people that knew us, right? I think there wasn't like partnerships have always been around, but like it wasn't as emphasized as it is today. Like in those days. We didn't have like a partnership person, right? We didn't have
Mm,
like a channel. We had like, we definitely had they call them channel partners, right? Or like at that time
yeah.
it's like, okay, you got a partner, but it wasn't um, as emphasized as it is today, but we still had it, right? We still had partnerships with people that basically made introductions, and that was the main thing. It's like, you work with a client. I built some amazing relationships with clients. Recently, not too long ago, I text, one of them. It's like, hey, I have a kid. This is going on, and they're texting me, and even now they'll still reach out on LinkedIn. I had a call with one maybe not 6 months ago, right? Which was like, hey, how you been, dude? What are you up to? It's like, so we build great relationships with people, and they just know people. It's like, hey, my buddy's looking for this, or hey, David would go to a conference or Chris would go to a conference. I would go to a conference and run into people, and it's like that connection worked.
So
I
customer
don't think
like, sorry, so customer like Garmin would be typically onboarded that way.
repeat that question. Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Someone like Garmin or
Yeah, yeah, exactly. One of the like some of the bigger clients that we had, or one of the biggest clients we had was a gaming client, right? Trying to think of the name.
Enmas, I guess.
It might have been in Mass. Yeah, it
Yeah.
might have been in Mass or some type of game. Yeah, client. It might have been that. And yeah, like that client came from like a referral, right? Like it
Hmm.
was like somebody who was we had worked with them, and like it was a referral. Like, oh, dude, that's amazing, right? And those are like the best. I think I think that's where we didn't have a chance to really figure it out. I don't think that was a part that I think like was because we figured out the SMB side, right? Like, the small medium business, like we figured that piece out, and we had a lot of inbound. Every now and then we'd get an enterprise type client that would come in, but I think the bigger enterprise clients, I think that was like I felt like it was a lot of luck, which left me kind of with that question, right? It's like it really did feel like luck. It's like we had landed these guys because we're good at sales, right? We're great at sales, and so, but how did they get here, right? It's like, can we try to replicate that, which is bothersome, right? Like it just that to me bothers me. I'm like, because I want more of those. Um, and I think that's where the acquisition came in around that time, or the merger,
Right.
and so we didn't get a chance to continue with that part. It was more like, hey, let's keep what we have. Let's add a few more clients, and then we got into security, which is also like
Totally new
a
direction at that point.
totally different direction, totally different GTM strategy, different pricing. And so that was fun, and it was I think we were kind of being positioned towards going more enterprise. For me, it was like my time to go. I felt like I wanted to try something different, and so that was one of the things I wish I would have finished. I don't like live in regret or anything, but just thinking back, like that would have been cool to like figure out more with MaxCDN is like
When did you
that
exit,
bigger.
by the way, after the acquisition?
I was there for about a year. That was about 6 months a year. I think I was like committed for about 6 months. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be cool. And then, the last 6 months, I was like, well, maybe not the best fit for me. So that's when I was like, started thinking about what was next. And so,
What was next? I forgot.
yeah. So for me, that was the first time I did consulting, and had like an agency. And so what we did was exactly that, which is to answer that question of like how and who and when, we're selling. Because often, most people come in again with sales questions and sales problems. Like, yeah, I have a problem. How do I sell better? But often it's not how do you sell better. It's like, how do I get more people in front of me that qualify, that fit what I'm offering, right? That are in the right place, or the right person, the right time at the right place. And we can get pretty far as a business. Businesses can get really far without really truly understanding that, right?
Hmm.
Because of relationships, because they're getting referred deals, because they figured out a broad enough niche where it brings in enough, but then they have to sift through a lot of junk. Just got enough of a market fit to keep them going and growing. But they reach a point where it's just like, okay, we stopped growing, and it's like, why? It's a sales problem. We don't can't sell more. Why do we sell more? We're just not selling well enough. We need to fix the demo. We need to fix you know the pitch. We need and sometimes they are sales problems, right? But often it's not a sales problem. It's really more a GTM problem, which is we're just not finding those channels and creating those systems to replicate that over and over and over and over, so that we can bring it to the sales team and then close and grow.
So what do we do at that point? Because I know a lot of like, what is it? Like 99% of the companies will reach that point at some.
Yeah, I mean, cross your fingers you do, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal to get to that point, right? We're just like,
Well, I
oh
mean,
shoot,
you
like
you you either recognize that you have GTM problem and then deal with it, or you don't and you die, I guess.
yeah, or you stay, pretty static for a while until somebody comes in with more money and then teaches you that GTM is the answer.
Yeah.
you know? And then they just go back to the roots, right? They go back to like figuring it out, right? I think um, you know, you know, business is ebbs and flows, right? And it's levers. And so what makes an entrepreneur successful once, or what makes us, like an entrepreneur, a founder, or a sales team, or whatever you want to do successful over and over again, is because they make the same decisions over and over.
Hmm.
Like, I'll give you an example. And they make the same thing. The same problem comes in. They make the same decisions. They're unconsciously making them often, right, from one business to another, but they just keep doing it, right? And I'll give you an example. Like, I have this amazing restaurant, and now it's a big chain, right? It's called Porto's here in Los Angeles, which sells Cuban food. And every time I go to Porto's, I order the same thing. There's this like Cuban sandwich, and there's two Cuban sandwiches, a medianoche, and I don't know what the other one is, right? And so the only difference between the two is the bread. One has a white bread, the other one has like a brown bread, right? And so I like the white bread. It just, I think it's yummy. And so, um, but I always forget the name of the bread. I always forget the name of the sandwich. So every time I go, I always guess. Every single time, dude. For like the last 10 years, dude, I always guess. You would think I'd write it down. Like, I always guess. I'm like, I think it's that one. And it's probably not like, I think it's probably because familiarity and just like medianoche, I think that's what it's called. And so every time I order the same one, right? And then I started questioning, like, dude, that's crazy. Now I just play the games. Like, I wonder if I'm gonna order the right one, right? And every time I order the right one, but it's because you keep making the same decisions unconsciously, right? Over and over. And so you see serial entrepreneurs, you see people who are great at sales, you see people who are great at, discovering, go-to-market strategies. It's because they keep making the same decisions. Often they don't know, but that they're making these decisions, but they do make the same decisions over and over. And so um, and so you see this often with many companies, right? You see this problem, which is like they'll get to a certain point, but then like because they're good at just figuring out, but it's like how do you make that transition into building a system? The beautiful part is it's the same thing. It's iteration, right? It's iteration. You know, we talked about MaxCDN and the way we started with like, four different brands and then ended up or six, whatever brands, and then ended up consolidating to one, right? It was like, first it was like, three or four, whatever, or four or five, whatever it was, I forgot. And then, we had MaxCDN and HCDN and then DNA, right? So then it was three, and then there was two, and then there was one, right? And if you take that's a GTM strategy, right? That's the oldest trick in the trick in the book. It's just like try different stuff, try different
Mm.
shit, right?
Yeah.
Sure, like I'm not saying throw shit at the wall because there's this like concept of like just throw shit at the wall. It's like okay, maybe not throw shit at the wall, but come up with hypothesis. You know,
Okay.
think about it, right? Think about it and say, okay, what's worked? That's the other thing is, don't try to reinvent the wheel. What's worked? Who did we close? And then we had like David, like our old like marketing head of marketing at MaxCDN said, it's like whales hang out with whales, right? So it's like, okay, so now we know have this whale, like where was this whale hanging out, right? It's like how do we replicate this, over and over? And then you build systems around it. If you think back to MaxCDN times, when I was telling you about the Amazon example, AWS, in those days it was kind of like almost lucky. We're just like kind of crossing our fingers, and we'd create, maybe we created content around AWS and how we compare and what the pivoting point is and so on and so forth. But like then we would go to the website and then just like build. I remember having like the tool built with, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so
Still
cool.
there.
Like now yeah, it was like go to their website. I can click on built with and it'll tell me if it's AWS. And then I was like, oh, let me go tell them.
Mm.
Oh, I need AWS. Right. And it's like, that's awesome. And it helped a lot to close, right? It helped a
Yeah.
lot to sell. But in today's technology with AI and like, Clay using those tools to really like take care of a lot of that automation. Now I can proactively take a step back and say, okay, now I know if I know as a business that AWS clients are my clients, shit, I can, build a list and then, see with the same tool built with in Clay, see what tools they're using, right? So now I can like build an even better list and say, hey, I see you have AWS. I've helped last month, I helped four clients from AWS, lower their bill by, 30% without having any type of commitment. If I could do the same thing for you, if I could do the same thing for you, would that be worth a call? Right? It's
Yeah,
like, shit, if I'm sitting there saying, oh man, I'm worried about my AWS bill, and somebody says that to me, like I'm gonna reply yes, right?
yeah.
And so today's technology, we can do that, right? Which is before we were kind of just waiting for it through SEO and doing the best we could, but now we can actually build and say, okay, let's go and test this out, and then say, okay, we know that works. Now let's go and reach out to people, letting them know that we can do this, right? And you're doing them a favor, really, because you can save them money, you can help them. So it's like, now that instead of seeing like, just sitting back and like and a lot of businesses do this, right? They sit back and just wait for that business to come in. It's like, okay, cool, this is good, this is not, this is good, this is not. It's like, okay, what makes one good? Now build the outreach around that. Like, come up with a hypothesis. Don't throw shit at the wall,
Yeah.
right? Come up with a hypothesis of why this worked and where you can find more and go test it. And then go, and that's the power of AI now, right? And that's where we're finding a lot of success. It's like with GTM, it's like, let's just like try. Let's fail quick.
How do you
Let's fail quick.
combine? Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you again. I know you have pretty much tested ecosystem of tools that you're using. Um, can you walk me through it? Like you mentioned Clay. I remember Clay, maybe
Yeah.
Apollo was it there as well? Although Apollo technically isn't AI, but it's utilizing AI, obviously.
Yeah, right now a lot of the things that I'm building out is clay based. It's just because of AI. Like,
Mm.
like it's not like I love AI necessarily. I was an early adopter. I was also, of AI. Like when ChatGPT first released, I was like, wow, game
Yeah.
changer, right? But then I was also an early adopter. This is shit. You put shit in, you're gonna get shit out. I was like, this is really bad, right? What changed my mind about AI was Clay.
Mm.
So I was consulting with a client at the time, and he's a founder, and he's trying to make that transition, trying to figure out his go-to-market strategy and how he's going to bring more leads so that he could scale, right? And he mentioned Clay. He's like, hey, have you heard of Clay? And this is like, you know, years back, and I was like, no, no, I had no clue. I was like, let me look into it, and I was like, Clay is awesome. Like this is great because it's just like a little SDR team on a platform.
Mm.
Like I can just now build, like instead of hiring a team of five SDRs, 10 SDRs to go test things out, because that's what you want, you might want to do, right? If you have the money, like MaxCDN, if it would have like taken money, that's exactly what it done, right? We would have had the money to afford more salespeople and then to go figure out our strategy and have somebody like I would sit back and be like, okay, yes, no, yes, okay, let's try this, try that until we figured it out, right? But now we don't need money. We need, with technology, you can have a team of 10 SDRs with AI, like a 10, 20, 100 SDRs who try a bunch of different campaigns. It's really about how fast you want to come up with the ideas and how much you want to test to figure that out, right? And so, organizations that run into this stuff, like, and run into that problem, like that, that's the solution is like, our stack at this point is really, people like invest in people. Like, yes, you want to invest in people, of course, the right team, like 100%, right? That doesn't go away from the human element of having the right people be on the right bus in the right place.
But
But
using right
now we,
tools.
but now we have the tools to just like, do a lot more with a
So,
lot less.
what's the work that you typically offload to Clay?
I was telling you how I would go to, click on build with and be like, oh, I see I got AWS. That's fucking amazing. Like, well, let me go on your LinkedIn. Oh, let's see, where have you worked? Oh, cool. What's your business up to? Huh. Let me do just spend 30, 40 minutes researching you, right? Um, and determining what is my position, where do we come in, how do we help you, right? It's like that was my job. That's our job as sales team, right? Our sales organization. That's exactly how I train it. It's like do this, go through this, study it, and then position it, right? It's like, and then you send out this amazing email. It's like well positioned. And it's like, can I have a call with you? It's like, yeah. With technology today, though, that has been taken back, right? Meaning it has been dropped lower in the or or higher in the sales funnel, right? Or in the market funnel, however you want to call it, right? Because that's the stuff that we can take care of on the front end. So with AI, a lot of it is who we're reaching out to, right? And then it's like, okay, cool. Like let's build a list of we think that these types of people, this industry, that use these, this is what we're going to go after. Now we can actually filter back and say, are they using AWS, right? For example, with MaxCDN, love to create it like, okay, we're going to go after, um, e-commerce sites. Okay, cool. What tools are they using? Are they using AWS? Cool. Now we can do that research now with Clay, right? Now the research of what are the initiatives that an organization is going through? What's going on with the organization? Who's involved? Who do we reach out to? That can all be done with AI. So, you know, really like where the human element comes in now is like that strategy piece, right? Like who do we reach out to? What messaging do we test? Um, and it all can be done with tools now, right? Or your software stack, all the way from building the list to enriching the list, finding the right contact information, doing research on the company to determine what initiatives or what's going on within the organization. Are they the right fit? All the qualifying is done, right? And then even messaging, right? Creating hyper personalized messaging can be done as well with Clay, right? I think it's overly done, so I didn't want to touch on that too much because it's like I think overly done with the hyper personalization is just like okay, cool, it worked for like a year. Now you're gonna have to go back to fundamentals, um, and really kind of figure out, what is the problem that you're solving, right? Because it's always like that. Um, but and doing the outreach, right? Like, and so like I said, the tool stack it'll take care of everything, building the list all the way to doing the outreach and hyper personalized outreach. It just won't reply yet. I mean, you can get it to reply, it's just not very good, and that's where the human comes in. Um, and oh yeah, then that's what I believe is like the strength, right, of AI.
Did you check?
Because
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, go ahead.
Yeah, did you check like the capability of Claude, how it can use different platforms for exactly that? Because what you just described with Clay, you can potentially do with other tools as well. But for example, I'm
Yeah,
seeing more and more Claude Code utilize the ecosystems where it essentially it orchestrates which tool does what, and it can quite successfully lead conversations with people as well. If you connect it
yeah,
with mail or Slack or whatever is it that you're using for communication. LinkedIn is kind of tricky still, I think, but
yeah. Yeah, no, I have played with Claude. I'm an not I wasn't an early adopter Claude. I kind of was like I stuck to chat for a while. But I've been testing it. It's been amazing.
yeah.
Like it's been life changing almost like again, right? It's like and a different with Claude. Um, the part that I like so Claude is an LLM, right? And so a large language model that we can use, and it does have a lot of capabilities. It is used within Clay, so Clay is basically like if you haven't seen it, it's a spreadsheet on steroids.
Yeah, I
It
used it
looks like
actually.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so
So
what you're saying, it's actually utilizing Claude, right? I didn't know that.
you can, it's a choice.
Oh,
It
okay,
recently
okay.
got more expensive, like in the last. Yeah, so it was a lot cheaper to use Claude before, and I was using it quite a bit, and so it got more expensive. So I don't know if I'm going to continue using it. Might look into buying like an account and then see if that becomes a little cheaper to do it that way. Um, but yeah, you can use Claude within Clay. What I like about using Clay, is it works at scale, right? Because with Claude, you or any you know LLM, it's almost like, okay, I'm gonna copy and paste this, or you create some kind of like automation that kind of gets into it, which is great. Use N8N, which we use significant amounts of. Um, but within Clay, you can do this at scale, right? You can, like, each client, each prospect can have its own, uh, run its own prompt, right? Like, hey, go find, this person, or, find their last post, or, what are they, see if we can find intent signals, right? Like, which is, for this specific company or this specific person, or, buying intent, or, whatever you can kind of pull into it. But it is per client, right? Which is quite nice versus like, um, just using, like you said, because I don't know how exactly you're using it, but I'm assuming you're using it within the chat, or are you building automations around it
So I'm
for
using,
Claude?
well, it depends what I need it for. Like for example, quick questions and stuff that I need, like the stuff we got used to while adopting ChatGPT, I guess. So quick answers here and there. So I use chat as well. But I am automating a lot of stuff more and more with it, using its MCP. So you connect different tools and you make it an orchestrating element that is instructing, like after the meeting, do like for example, after this call, what I'm gonna do is I'll have it compose like a summary, and if it was an actionable meeting, then we would have action items. Action items then would be placed in the Trello, and my team who is responsible, if this was, as I said, like sales call or whatever. So my team would receive an email with action items, like who's doing what and so on. So a lot of automation is just done on like a literally single click.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That,
But
that,
then it's still far away from um, what maybe even the topic of this conversation is, and that's the sales part, or maybe the GTM as well. That one I still didn't really crack with how to automate it, and mainly because there are different opinions of maybe how we should even set up a GTM now, when it's definitely required to be reestablished after a lot of changes happened on the markets, economic, political, you name it, like AI. So everything happened all at once, and we're like, everyone is like, we have to learn AI. We have to figure out what happened to our GTM from 5 years ago. So a lot of stuff happened. So sales-wise, I'm still far away from automating a lot of that using either of the
that-
tools, really. Um, but I wanted to touch base on this with you because the GTM for service versus like product or SaaS, it's different. It's same but different.
that-
Yeah. What do you think about it?
yeah, I think, it's normal, right? Because and that's the thing about business. There's ebbs and flows, and you just gotta, pivot, and again, that's why you have serial entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs or CEOs that do well, and others, don't. Is that they keep making the same decisions correctly, right? It's like they see these problems, and so it's normal, right? For the market to pivot. It's gonna pivot. It's just part of life, that things just change, right? Um, I would definitely, like, in the past, I would say, in your situation, because it doesn't sound like you have a sales problem. That's number one.
Yeah.
That's, I think, we know that. And so I think it's really just like getting more people in front of you, right? And in the past, I would say, hey, like, you need to either hire somebody who understands this really, really well to do the outreach for you, somebody more entrepreneurial, to help, but most of the time I wouldn't recommend a hire, right? And most of the time I would say, a hire would be a bad idea. I think the founder should kind of figure it out. Maybe hire an SDR, and figure it out with the SDR, not let the SDR figure it out, but with the SDR figure it out. Now, in today's market, and that's really what, like, and I've been doing a lot of, is you can use clay, or build systems around testing different GTM hypotheses. And that's the beauty of it, right? It just made it way more attainable. Like I said to you before, with MaxCDN, if instead of merging, we would have taken money, I'm sure the first thing we would have done is just hire people. And in my view, wouldn't have been to scale. It would have been to understand our new strategy for enterprise, for example, right? Like now we know there's something there. We found success. Now let's replicate it. Let's create a system around it, right? And so similarly here is like now you could do the same thing, but not necessarily raising money because with a clay account and and smart leads and Apollo and a few different tools and HeyReach, you can build a multi-channel automated outreach and that tests these things for you, right? It doesn't mean everything's going to be a winner, but now you just try different things and say, okay, cool, let's just try this and let that run for a little bit, right? And let's try this and let this run and let's like change the messaging on this. This kind of worked. All right, let's double down on this. It's old school. It's old school. It's old school like strategies, right? Which is like try different things, multipliers in the fire, and then double down your winners. And it's the same thing, but now you could do that with AI, and you don't need to go raise money for this stuff, right? Like a lot of people are still stuck with that idea. It's like, and I'm going to move away from the sales topic, but a lot of people are just stuck with the idea of like doing things themselves or self-publishing, right? It's like, often people are like, I want to, get start a podcast or like, like you, right? Like, or I want to be in the media. It's like, I want to build my brand. It's like, go build your brand. Like, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, like you have a camera, you have everything you need. It was different before, right? 20 years ago, right? It's like, okay, when you got a PR firm, you got to do this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but spend, it just was different. Now it's like everything is here and available to you. So you don't have to wait for anybody to give you permission or give you money. Like now you can just choose to be like, hey, like here are the tools. I have a few theories I want to test out. You hire somebody like myself, or so, you hire somebody like, that does something similar to what I'm doing, which understands GTM. And then you sit down with them and you test and you test and you test until you find winners. And then you find a winner, you double down. Okay, we got this. Let's go test this other thing. Let's optimize this. Let's build on this. Right? I'm a fisherman, and this is the way it works. Right? I love fishing. This is what I do, like for fun. Right? I like to go in the ocean, off in the ocean, and then just fish. And fishing is people think, oh, you're there to like spend time in nature and pulling fish and get food for your family. And there's that beauty of it, right? That very natural part of it. But I think most good fishermen understand that it's just a testing thing. You go and test things. You miss 1 week and you're like, shit, I failed. I didn't catch any fish. What could have happened? Okay, think. Okay, white lure. That's the move. We got to go with the white lure. Last time I went the blue lure. Now I got to try the white lure. Let's go try that. That ain't work. Live bait. That's the move. I saw that other guy. He had live bait. I'm going to come back. You go and get the live bait and you come back. You do it again. You do it over and over until you finally find the fish, right? And then you're like, oh shit, I need a better fishing pole because I'm pulling bigger fish in, right? So it's like, and then it's like that's the move, right? And
And
we
that's
lose
and
track.
that's the sales problem now, not a GTM anymore, right? The biggest stick, right?
Yeah. Now it's yeah. Now you got to learn how to reel it in. You got to take your time. You can't get nervous. That's how you land the big fish, man. It's not like, it's like, and that's the same thing with sales. You got to just take your time with the bigger deals. Don't get too nervous and just reel them in, man. Just reel them in. And so that's a sales problem, exactly. But that's exactly right. That's a sales problem. It's no longer that testing, right? And it's funny because for me, I love the testing part. So, like one of the things is like I'll take friends fishing, and I put fishing poles in their hands, right? And I'm like, do this. That's my personality. That's my character. I was like, do this. Put this white lure on. Hold this fishing pole. Put it right there, and reel in slowly, and then you'll catch a fish. And they're like, oh, the fishing's so cool. fishing's so fun, all right? Like so many people have gotten into fishing, like from like my buddy Oshin from Recharge, right? Loves fishing, and that's it. You just I put a fishing pole in his hand. He's like, this fishing's so cool. My niece, my daughters, my family loves fishing because I'm like, here, because I go out and do but they don't see that I already did all the testing for years or sometimes, like months to try to figure out, hey, here are the fish, right? I already did the GTM. And it's like now I just hand you the fishing pole. It's like now do this. And then just like then it's a sales problem. Then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna coach you to how to bring this deal in, right? How to bring this fish in. And that's the cool part. But yeah, man, I love fishing. I love GTM, and that's part of it because I enjoy the testing. I enjoy I'm a curious person by nature. Like you can tell my personality, got a lot of things going on. And so like I'm like, okay, like next thing. Okay, cool, that didn't work. Okay, next thing, right? The biggest problem we have, I think, currently is that people are not willing to test that fast. Like, and I think that's part of it, right? They're limiting themselves and saying, hey, let's try this strategy, let's do this. Like, um, may work, they're trying to optimize, which is, that's the problem when we get as a bigger organization, we become bigger and we can become a little slower and we're like,
Risk averse.
okay, yeah, we become we're trying to optimize it where it's like it doesn't require optimization, right? That's a sales problem, right? That's later. That optimization, like right now, you need something fast, quick, try different things out. That's what's going to lead to finding success. And then you have, you see the nibbles, okay, your gut feeling says that there's fish here. I just needed like a bigger hook or a different hook or better bait or better messaging, a better offer, right? A better, maybe dig into the ICP a little more. Maybe we have the right organization but the wrong title. Are we reaching out to the right titles, right? Like it just those subtleties is what's going to make the difference, right? But how do you test that out? Like you don't have a team of 20, 100 SDRs, no, but you have, Clay AI now to do that for you. So now you can say, okay, let's build a campaign around only directors of sales, only VPs of sales, only CROs, only CEOs, only CTOs, only, engineers. It's like, let's build different messaging and we can do that, right? It's like, and then now you move away from the variable, which is the human variable, right? Which has always been a challenge in DTM. It's like, well, what did you sell? How did you go? It's like, that's now you move away from that because now you have a system, you have a machine, you have AI to basically test these things out, and there's no fooling it. That messaging either worked or it didn't. That strategy of going after that specific CTO like titles worked or it didn't, right? And it's replicable. It's doing the same thing over and over and over and over. So it's from my perspective a little bit easier once you do find success to be able to replicate it versus like doing it with a human because a human's still like, so what worked? And they're like, I think this is what I ended up doing, and then I did this, and it's like, okay, cool, that's great. Let's do that again. It's like, oh, he goes and does it again. It's like takes three, 10 times for it to happen for you to start seeing a pattern, right? With AI, with using these, you don't have to do that because you know what it looks like every single time. It's replicable. And for somebody like me that's a bit of a control freak, that's perfect, right? Because it allows you to exactly pitch exactly what you want, do the exact research over and over, do the same hyper personalization over and over, and you test it out and see what works and what nibbles,
So
what doesn't.
if I was someone who like has an idea how to test out, like I have different messaging, different approaches, different ICPs and so on. So what's the channel for SaaS versus or let's say service industry specifically, doesn't matter which one really. So what are the channels I should be focusing on? Because mails today are like overcrowded. If I go to my mail, I cannot like I can't work with it. Like Slack is my main channel of communication with everyone right now because it's the only thing that it's not polluted. So mails, obviously, even if I send them out, they're gonna go into maybe not spam, but like promotions and whatnot, folders and so on. So then we have to combine, I'm guessing, email something else, LinkedIn. Then LinkedIn is tricky because of the lockout and all the policies that they apply and so on. So what's the strategy there?
Yeah, the strategy there is you know, using multi-channel is important. So that's a great point. Like, starting with LinkedIn, LinkedIn converts amazing. Um, if done right, because it can get spammy too, and you just like, hey, notice this. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, man. But um, if you do kind of, I personally, I see a lot of success with just like, hey, great to connect. Like, I look forward to talking to you about security industry.
But still, you're talking LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, man.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most successful, and steal this one. Seriously, try it. Just a simple message, man. One human
Yeah.
to one human. Like, hey, great to connect. I look forward to speaking, security and like updates with you. Like, cool. Like, awesome. If somebody told you that, like, that's great. I don't know how many people reply to that, right? Now, they're not going to reply with you with saying, hey, give me a demo, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
no, 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 for sure, for sure. Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's like if you met someone on the street and you want to sell them something, you're not gonna say, "Hey, nice to meet you. I saw what you did." La, 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 la." It's like fake. It doesn't work. The person is gonna
yeah,
run away from you, right? So it's the same thing, I'm guessing, on social media as well. So you have to adapt and or convert essentially. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. You just start a conversation with somebody. That's exactly, and sometimes I think that's where like, where what I think is powerful to test, like one of the like, so if I were, and I'm going to use as an example. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
And so, from your side, you know, what I would do is like, well, let's say for LinkedIn, for example, like just start conversations, man. Like just literally start conversations, right? What's the value there? You know who your ICP is, right? So you know who you want to test out to go after. You know who we like, let's say you have a theory, you're like, okay, cool. Now, if you were to go to a conference, what would you do? Right? Because you got to think of LinkedIn as a conference. That's really the best way to
Hmm.
kind of describe. But if you think of LinkedIn as a conference, like what would you do? Um, what you would do is, and you had something to pitch, right? Something new. Well, let me rephrase that because maybe not everybody treats conference the same way. So one of the tricks that I have, and maybe like, now I realize like maybe I hadn't. So one of the tricks that I have, when I have a new product, a new pitch, I love to go to conferences. I love to go to places where my ICP is, right? And I did this I've done this a few times, and it works great before AI, right? Before anything. So I would go and say, okay, I have this new product, this new client, go to a conference with them, and then I just pitch, right? I just pitch and I say, hey, this is what we do. And then I look at people's faces, right? And I'm like, are they understanding what I'm saying? Are they just saying yes? Are they fucking like opening their eyes like, oh, that sounds really fucking cool? Like, are they just not giving a shit? Are they confused? You know? What's going on for them. And so, that has allowed me to perfect or, a lot of pitches, a lot of different positions, a lot of like GTM strategy, like a lot, right? Because it's just like you go and test it out,
Yeah.
right? LinkedIn is the same thing, right? It's the same thing, and that's how I would approach it in like situations like yours, right? With people who are just like new to like doing outreach, trying to figure out their GTM. Like LinkedIn is great. It's a little slow, yes, absolutely, but use that as a way for you to test, right? So send out the message. Hey, great connecting with you. Thanks for the connection. Look forward to speaking to you about blah blah blah. Some people reply, some people don't. As a follow-up, you can, just confirm like what you liked about them. You can say, hey, I noticed you, then you do the notice maybe, or you can, um, I read through your profile and it looks like you like working with this type of client. Is that correct? Like, just get to know somebody. Like, and if they're down to play, they're gonna play. It's the same thing at a conference. You go to a conference, some people are down to play and talk and learn about each other. Other people are not, right? So you do the same thing on LinkedIn. You just like, hey, are you open to have a conversation? I'm open to have a conversation, and then just have a conversation with them and talk to them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's what I've been doing. I found this, like, like it's, pitch them, try it. Manually pitch them. Don't use that. Once you with AI did the research, found the right person, you come up with a theory. you filtered them, you found out the revenue, you found out what other tools they use, and you think they're the right person to reach out to. You finally reach out to them on LinkedIn with automation. Up to this is automated. It sends out the first message, maybe sends out one or two messages. Finally, you get some replies. Don't try to sell them. The point is just to start a conversation with them, and then you just chat with them. Maybe it's you start off you start having you know 3 4 conversations a day or 2 or 3. You're like, hey, let me bring this back a little bit, like or a week. It's like, okay, let me have these conversations with somebody. Let me pitch them. Let me see what they're about. What problems are they having? Just be human. And to me, that's a great strategy, right? Because it's not like spamming everybody. Email's a little different. You can definitely you have some scale if you want it. That's the numbers game does work. It still works. You know, um, you can use AI now to hyper personalize every single message that goes out, so that you can avoid spam filters. There's tools like Smart Leads, and in combination with like Zapmail and just other things, so you can build huge email infrastructures, right? You can go into like private servers, so you can really scale this up to avoid spam filters as much as you can. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, it's like you're gonna have issues with it sometimes. You're gonna be blocked, and it's not gonna work perfect every time, but there's ways to go around it, right? To get into people's inboxes. And so you can test out a little bit more, right? And you do have to pitch a little bit more with that, but even then, if you know and you have a theory of a problem you're solving, one of the most successful like frameworks for email right now that I have is, this works amazing, again, steal this too, is, hey, I noticed, whatever it might be, right? And we're gonna try to use a different word than notice, but you know, because it's become so big, right? It's like it's annoying. You kind of already know it's automated if it says I noticed,
Yeah.
but um, but stating what you found, the reason you're reaching out. I'm reaching out because this, yeah, like I'm reaching out because there's a job posting for a knock engineer, and I saw it's been up for over 30 days. If you're anything like any of the other organizations I've talked to within the same field, whatever it is, it's a hard thing to fill, right? It's a hard role to fill. I recently helped, Blue Grid, hire, a knock two engineer with it, and we had him up and running within 27 days, trained, fully up and running in 27 days. If I could do something similar for you, would it be worth a call, right?
Yeah.
If a job posting's been up for 90 days, you know, and nobody's clicked on it, which is literally an example that I have right now, like before this call, um, they're probably in need, right? And so they probably need what we have to offer. It's not going to hit a home run every day, but at scale, we get into enough inboxes and we know the problem is there. We're going to solve this problem for a good number of people. Some people are going to be like, yeah, yes, absolutely. Where you been? Some people would be like, nah, right? But it does work. And that's one strategy, right? That's one theory. And so we'll test that out, and see how it goes. Do we have clicks? Are we opening? Are they like, is it a messaging we'll figure that out if what'll work there. Do we need to like, reword this? Like, do we have to bring in more examples? Like we'll test that out and figure out, what'll work then. But but I think the point is like, we now have everything we need to basically um test things out with our GTM. It's just that we get stuck in this optimization and often and trying to like, you know, uh, figure out how to make something better or how to maximize something because that's all we know. And it's hard to pull away from that and say, hey, great, that's awesome. Let me let that run for a bit. Let me just now figure this other piece out, which is what's my go-to-market strategy? What other channels can we build, right? And how do we pivot basically, like from moving from one market to now a complete different market. Luckily, we have a product that's good enough that's keeping us afloat and letting us grow somewhat a little bit. But how do we continue to grow this? And it's really just about um, putting the work in, man. Putting the effort in to figure that out. And now we have AI to be able to do that really quickly and efficiently, and not as expensive as it was before. It's just more attainable. And we can complain about AI costs and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, like now it's attainable, and that's really the major difference. Is like it's like electric bikes, right? Like electric bikes, like they do this exact same thing as a regular bike. It takes a lot more work on a regular bike. And for a big guy like me, like having an electric bike just makes me have access to bigger mountains and steeper hills that I didn't have access to before because of my how big I am, right? So I'm just a big dude. So it's like, but it's the same thing with AI. Like as a smaller organization, as it doesn't have to mean as an organization is trying to figure it out, right? You now have, and we're all like, whether you're big or small enterprise organizations, like there's still limited resources. So it's like within my reach, I now have a team of infinite SDRs that can go test things out for me. And that's like the major difference is accessibility, where we just, we needed millions before of funding, which we just don't anymore.
So when it comes to the process of testing and figuring out, and then you have an idea like what works and what doesn't, at which point and how deep do you go into automating personalization of these messages? So
As much as
how,
it works, that's the honest answer. As much as I can get away with working, right? Um, it depends. Like there's certain some organizations where I've automated things up to like just the outreach, everything is fully automated until they even when there's replies, we might send an automatic reply, but that works for them, right? And within their market, within their product, within their offering, that works. And then I have other organizations who it's just a layup, right? Where we build out automation, we find the right people, we determine whether it's the right time to reach out to them through triggers, through buying intent, through like things like plugging in 6 cents into Clay, plugging in our B2B into Clay to de-anonymize your traffic, right? To determine who came to your website, who landed on your ad, right? And then using that for outreach, powerful stuff,
but
right?
Clay also does the research for buying intent, right?
It does. It does. It does. Yeah, there's some bind intent tools in there. I haven't played with them too much. Usually I like just because I've been using it for so long, I have a few different clay agents that I've built that just do a lot of this research for me. And so I can just bring it into different types of clients. Like, okay, well now let's position it for this client, do the research here. And it really works. Recently I had a client who we built, who basically had a bunch of intent tools, and we plugged everything in to de-anonymize the traffic, who's clicking on their links, who's clicking on their ads, and everything was just in their CRM, and it just like and so like they were like, okay, what do we do with this stuff? And so we built a table that basically plugged in all the different variables and scored it so that we can, tier their TAM, which is pretty amazing. So we basically got their entire market and said, out of the entire market, this percent is within our pipeline. Like this is people who are in our pipeline. And within the pipeline, these people are like in tier one, tier two, tier three, based on their activities. And so we were able to pinpoint exactly who to reach out to within their TAM based on their activity with the intent, which is, really cool, right? And then we built outreach and hyper personalization around that, and so that was really cool. But then, as an experiment, because they had so much data, uh, but because the data was so sparse, that was one of the challenges. Is that we had a lot of data from a lot of different companies and organizations within the CRM. So we capture when they land on our website, when they clicked on pricing, when they click. But then it's like not every single one had all this different data, so it was pretty sparse. So what I did is I also compared it to just doing scraping the internet, right, and training like Claude to basically look for intent of this organization. And surprisingly, I was like, well, I was like, we'll see how this compares. It's like personal just experiment, right? Because I'm an experimenter to test things out. And so I was like, I got to test this out. So I built this agent or agents to basically scrape the web for intent. And it actually did really well. So what we noticed is like on one level, the ones that were um, tier one within the, using all these like, tools to basically gather intent, like, 7 out of 10 times they were also scored, you know, an A or tier one using just the, Clagent basically to
Mm.
scrape for intent. So it was pretty remarkable to think about, hey, man, like we spent all this money on developing these tools, integrating these tools, but just to now build an agent who can just like go and search for intent and see what activities are going on with the organization, any changes, and score it based on that, and still come back with pretty good results. Like, that's pretty incredible, right? So, um, yeah, and it's like it gives us just like, and then building outreach based on that, that's always fucking fun, right? So because you know that that they may be interested, right? It's like, and you can focus on that, and that makes a big difference. And then it either proves your theory right or it proves it wrong, right? Which is again, we want it to be proved right. That's usually the case, and we want to make the best decisions, but sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay because you still have like five other plays and that are you're trying to wait to see what works,
Yeah, four
and
different
so
brands to merge eventually when one figures out.
exactly, it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. I always say that it's like I'm bringing old school sales like into the AI age, right? It was like, how do you introduce yourself? It's like, I guess I'm just bringing old school sales into the AI age, right? Because it's like this stuff has worked forever, and
Well,
and and
don't you think, I mean, the old school was actually always working and it was always there. But when we invent something new, it becomes so sticky. People tend to use it because it's easy, because it's trendy. But then when, like for example, automation with AI, oh, hello, I noticed that XYZ. It's automated and everyone's using it, but it's wrong because you're still selling to people and you're not leaning into that fact.
Yeah. No, and that's the exactly, dude. Exactly, 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 exactly. And that's the part I think we're still missing. I think we're still evolving. I think as AI kind of evolves into it, and like as organizations, like I think um understanding that part, right, which is like it's taking care of some of the heavy lifting, but it's bringing us back into old school sales, which is like now it's really up to the salesperson um to build that additional relationship, right? Like if you think back to like Mad Men or something like that, when it's like the type of, I don't know if you ever watched that show Mad Men, where they did ad
Oh,
sales, right? And it's like they had this whole team and they put all these corporate, like it's so cool, right? They sit down and just smoke cigarettes and drink whiskey and sell deals, right? It's like freaking cool. And so and they're building relationships with people, and it's like and so that's a certain level of sales. Yes, it still exists, um, but I always think of that and being able to bring that, because it's really about AI technology is really about accessibility, right? But if you're able to bring that type of accessibility, that type of relationship management into a smaller deal as a smaller team or with less resources, that's the goal, right? To give more to our clients because we now AI can take care of some of the shit that we didn't like,
yeah,
right? It's like we automate our lives, right? With like think about it, like life hacks, like that has been around for a long time. It's like, oh, this is my life hack. Wear the same clothes every day, right? Like, eat the same shit. It's like, oh, like put your, daily routines and block your time off. And, you know, we know these things work. Why do we do it? So that we can live a better quality life so we have time to hang out with our kids,
yeah,
right? Same thing with AI and sales, right? Like it's really about bringing it, like automate a lot of this stuff we don't want to do so that we can spend more time with our clients. And that's the part that we're missing, right? That's the part that's, I think, like that we're missing as, I think the organizations who are starting to see this, they're leaning into it really hard and say, hey, let's do a lot of this heavy lifting through the AI. Let's like, we know this works so that, our team, our people can actually spend more time, more quality time with the clients, understand them better, position us better, and close more, right? And that's where I think the most successful come from. Is like find that the AI is great for finding GTM and figuring out testing things out. Once you test out, you automate it, you build systems around it, you replicate it, free up your people, and then take your people and have them do cooler shit. Build relationships with your clients and actually take time to do that one-on-one. Like I'm saying, like with LinkedIn, like take time to understand them, like be human. Now it gives you the chance to do that, to figure it out, right? Or to, close more, whatever it is, right? Then it's a sales problem. And so,
And it kind
um,
of touches on philosophy, especially where we are right now. And well, actually, let me go back just a bit. You mentioned something interesting earlier. It's like AI is now there, but we have to go back and lean into our, people selling to human kind of relationship. And I think with technology, it's always like that. Like when technology like rises, when something new appears, we always have to, and that's kind of normal, I think. We have to go back and
yeah,
remember, go back a bit, like, pick up some of the data that we have that we know that worked, and then plug it in into the new system. When that evolves, we'll do the same. So I think it's
yeah.
natural progress, curve progress, right? And now we are at the stage where a lot of companies, especially big ones, are cutting the cost using AI, which I think will backfire at some point. With AI, I think the philosophy has to be we need to do more with what we have than to do the same with less, you know?
Yeah, exactly, 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 exactly. That's it. That's exactly it, right? Um, People are just demanding more, and like SaaS is taking a big hit right now, and and I think part of it is because you know people just don't want tools anymore, right? They don't want like a solution to that specific problem. They're taking it a step further and say, hey, we want outcomes.
Mm,
Like give me outcomes. I want to see what results you're going to give me. I don't no longer say, oh, this tool fixes this problem. It's like, no, that was, before COVID, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even 5 years ago, potentially, even a couple years ago, right? It might have been
yeah,
similar, but they don't want that anymore, right? Like what people are looking for is like, give me outcomes, give me solutions, not just solutions, give me outcomes. What is your solution what outcome is it going to give me? How much money is it going to make me?
yeah,
How much time is it going to save me? Right? Where it's like they want to know up ahead. It's like they want to know now, right? Which I think was a very agency type problem in the past. I think agencies always had
yeah,
that, like, hey, results, 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 right? Because but I think SaaS is moving into that too, and you see certain people moving into that, and because and it serves them well. It should be that, right? Because it's evolved into that. And now with AI, we should focus on that more, right? Because that's what should lead us to like being able to say, hey, how am I helping these people? How am I helping my client? Not just like giving them a solution, like, you know, what's the outcome? What is it you're doing for me? Like if I add your tool, right, and I have five other tools to choose from that do something similar, why is yours better? What is it that you're giving me? How much money are you making, right? Like
yeah.
how much time are you saving, right? And and they're putting that on the SaaS companies, and a lot of SaaS companies are like, I don't know. Well, what we do is we have a chat robot. It's like, okay, like what we do is we connect, your CRM to this, and it's like, okay, but how is that making me more money, right?
Yeah. What's
And
the
so,
outcome? And I think
exactly,
security teams in companies, small or big ones, always had that problem. So you have to invest a lot of money just to be able to say that you don't have a problem afterwards, and that's hard to explain to leadership. So outcome-wise, it's really hard to sell cybersecurity investment in the company, not just agency. You mentioned agency as one of an example, but yes, security teams in the companies always had that problem.
yeah. Like I know security's been tough. It's a pretty tough market to sell into. And that makes sense actually. Now you're saying it. So it's like it's always it's tough, right? Because like it because with security, it's like you're paying money for something that's like you're avoiding happen, right? If
Yeah.
if everything's fine, you're good. If
Yeah.
everything's like quiet, you did the right thing. But it's like, well, how do you measure that, right?
Yeah, exactly. With
Uh,
sales, you will invest in like 10 SDRs and you will have like 10x revenue, and it's measurable, it's positive, it's net positive. With security, it's net zero. If it's net zero, then it's good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which is it's just interesting, man. Just different markets, man. That's the part I do love about my job is like trying to figure those things out. It can be overwhelming at times for sure. Like I'm
How do
like,
you
oh
juggle
gosh.
it? I know you have like customers from all around the place. So like, how do you juggle the context switching between industries and demands?
Yeah, yeah. Believe it or not, there's just a lot of patterns that replicate. Like they just they're I. That's one thing I'm great at. Like I think one of my superpowers is seeing patterns. Both like that's why I love fishing too. Is like I see the patterns. I'm like, this person's doing this, or you know, like it just like naturally just comes to me. I'm curious, and then I see patterns, right? And so for me, I think that's you know relatively easy. And there's certain things that I just like always think of like that work, you know, open up floodgates, like, you know, giving your offer, like, you know, giving as much as you can, like always helps to just understand if there's even a need for this shit, right? For your product. Um, but so, you know, understanding certain rules that I know apply to all industries, I just seen time after time like that just like work well. And then patterns, but it does drive me a little crazy sometimes. I think like luckily I enjoy it. I enjoy like the hunt of it. I just enjoy trying to, you know, having a problem to solve. Now with kids and a family and the way things are in life and just America, so there's a lot of other things to worry about, which is makes it a little more difficult. But you know, but in general, like looking for like having these problems to chew on like I love this kind of stuff, right? It's like, okay, how do you do it? How do you do it? So I don't know if there's a juggling yet, like that's happening too well. It's more like it, you know, it's more like I need to figure it out. You know, it's like, okay, I need to figure this out. More than it's maybe like a sloppy juggle. Like, I don't know. But I think that the part that does help is the experience, man. You know, after like 16 years in B2B sales and seeing what's worked and also seeing some failures and not what's not worked. And feeling the pain of what's not worked. You kind of like avoid certain things. You're like, oh, not doing that, you know? Nope, hard no. Or maybe, you know, you're like, well, I can test it out. Didn't work that time, but it could work this time. And so the experience does help to juggle through this. And then not being afraid. Like I'm not a very fearful person when it comes to like testing something out. So I'm like, hey, let's just test it out. I think that helps. And then
And that's where the
and
luck actually comes from because you are building your own luck, man.
that
That's how it works.
it really is. It really is, man. And then but then it's like you can get lucky. I love luck, dude. Like I'm like, yeah. But then it's like as soon as you're lucky, you're like, why did I get lucky? Right? Why did I get lucky? What happened here? How did this lead like from the sales side? And how did we get this like thing in? Right? Like what happened?
I got
And
a
so
book for
like
you, man. Sorry, I have to jump in. So I have a book for you. Definitely have to read. It's called Reality Transurfing. I'll send
cool.
it. I'll send it over later. Don't worry about it. But yeah,
I'll take
when it say what?
I do audibles, man. I like I have to listen to the books. If not, I
Perfect.
like yeah.
It's actually a set of five books essentially. It's it is huge, but it's easy read. I'll send it over to you.
Very cool.
Speaking of luck, you'll see
Yeah, man. I love it. I love it. That'll be good. Dude, it's been nice talking though, man. Thanks for all the great questions.
for sure,
It's been great catching up, man. It felt like just a catch up more than anything else, and
for sure.
it was cool to talk about some of the stuff that I hadn't talked about in a while. So that was
Well,
fun.
I'm glad that I have been like a what do you call it, like a spark catalyzer
Yeah.
to what you wanted to touch base on. Speaking of luck, sorry if you're not in a hurry. So how much time do you have?
I have a call in 19 minutes.
No worries. I'll be quick. I just was reminded when we talked about luck about something. If I'm not wrong, you really had luck when last year was it when the fires in California, LA, Upper LA were like
Yeah, man. Yeah, fires got pretty close. So I live in Topanga Canyon, California. And it's beautiful here, man. It feels like you're not in LA. I'm, you know, 15 minutes away from Santa Monica and 15 minutes away from Calabasas, but we're surrounded by mountains and one of our neighbors is the Palisades. And so yeah, they weren't so fortunate. And you know, you kind of look at it from that perspective, like they shouldn't have like burnt. We should have burnt really because we're the ones that are like, you know,
You were
surrounded by trees.
you were on the way essentially.
Yeah. We got pretty close from two different sides. I mean, you know, close enough. I think, you know, on one side it was about a mile. The other side it got close to about a mile the other direction. So about a mile from two different directions. Which didn't get, you know, but it was scary because there was just like there was a moment where like we thought if the wind blew in our direction, that would have been it, man. So
Yeah.
definitely some luck there. But like I told my wife, I was like, look, we're not leaving. Like if that means we have to park our RV on our property until we build it back, we'll don't worry about it, right? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But luckily, yeah, we got very lucky and very blessed to still have
Cool.
a home standing and yeah,
Cool.
man.
I remember those days. I was watching what was it? Mel Gibson at Rogan's, and he was a guest. And in the middle of the show, he got texted that there was a fire, and he was like, "So we are recording this, and I don't know if I'll have home, when we are done." And essentially, I think his house actually was damaged pretty badly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I mean, I couldn't fathom being in that situation right now, on top of everything that's going on. To be relocated, like, you know, families have probably been there for, you know, some of those families have been there for generations,
Yeah.
and now they lost, you know, their home, their community, and you know, things like that just will never be rebuilt. Like the community will never be the
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
you know,
I know
and
what
it's
you mean.
unfortunate. So I feel very blessed to still have my same neighbors and same home.
Yeah.
It's a big blessing.
Cool. Well, I'll let you go now, man. Thanks so much for this time. I really enjoyed the call. And just before we leave, what is the best way for people to find you, learn more about you, and maybe engage with like work relationship with you?
Yeah, man. So LinkedIn, I'm always on LinkedIn. Noe Garcia, GrowthOps.AI is if you want to search. So and my name is Noe, Noe, Garcia.
It'll
My
pop
last
up
name Garcia.
here.
Yeah,
It'll be there.
perfect. Click the link. Uh, and then email, man, Noe at GrowthOps.ai. You can always email me if you have any questions. Just questions. I love to chat. I love to get to know people. As you can tell, you're probably gonna have to edit this video a lot because I can talk.
No, no,
So,
man. I hate doing that. No, even like the bloopers and everything, I just leave it up.
or make this a 10-part series, one of the two.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I love to chat and learn. And if you're looking for somewhere to soundboard and try to figure out your GTM and how AI could play a role in that, just current GTM, I'm happy to talk and figure that out with you, man. It's always fun.
cool, cool. I'll definitely hit you up even more to like do more of this because this is like a huge, not one topic. There's a lot of topics here to talk about with you, and I'm
Yeah,
happy to do it.
love it, man. Thanks a lot,
Cool.
dude. Thanks for the time. All right, Evan.
Thanks, man.
Have a great night.
See ya, man.
Cheers.